Hello, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of the Nonprofit Marketing Mastery video podcast. I am super excited today to not talk about marketing, but talk about something that I always preach, which is why you should outsource some things, is like how, as a nonprofit leader, you should utilize your time and sometimes free up your time. So super stoked. And you'll see my script is right here. I'm sorry. You know that I'm not polished. Super stoked to have Shaughnessy King here. She is the founder of Success by Ness, which is a virtual assistant agency. Not only is Shaughnessy the founder of Success by Ness, that's a growing agency. It's super exciting. She is also, like me, currently in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. She's originally from, she is originally based in Toronto, Canada, but moving her family and her life down to Mexico. So if you follow her on Instagram, Success by Ness, you will see a little bit more, not only about VA services, but also about life in Mexico. We're going to jump right in and talk to me a little bit, Shaughnessy, about what inspired you to create Success by Ness.
Yeah, so I started my virtual assistant agency, or virtual assistant business actually, a few years ago. And it was just post-COVID. I was just coming off maternity leave. And I was just trying to figure out what I should do instead of going back to my previous job. So I was previously a childcare center director, was running the center, chatting with parents and doing a lot of that administrative work that comes with it and managing staff. And I was like, how can I pivot that into some sort of remote work? Because post-COVID, we just didn't really know where the world was going to go. I just wanted a way to make some money from home so that I could stay home with my daughter if she got sick or if COVID shut down again. So I kind of just took those skills that I had and pivoted into starting my own virtual assistant business.
And I will learn how to unmute myself. So I know that, we're here today talking about nonprofit leaders. And I know that one of your niches, I would say, is not just nonprofit and mission focused individuals, but also women leaders and women entrepreneurs. So can you kind of walk me through what are the specific challenges they have, and why do you enjoy working with women?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times as women, we're just so used to doing it all that we often forget to ask for help. And so that's a big thing. I'm a natural born leader, natural born helper. So my whole family growing up used to call me Martha, as a way of borderline Martha from the Bible, but also Martha from Martha Stewart, because I was just always helping and doing different things. So I just live to help people, which also in turn means that I love to make people's lives easier and kind of reduce the workload. And so I think a lot of the times women, they don't really like to ask for help. And so a VA and having that kind of administrative support can kind of ease that burden. And even I realize now that working with women is just so much more relatable. And a lot of the times too, women are running their business, but they're also moms or wives, or, they got a bunch of different things that they're juggling. And so they need that additional support. But a lot of the times, especially with entrepreneurs, it's the budget can sometimes be a little bit tight, right? And so sometimes they don't realize how, cost effective and how beneficial it can be to have a VA on their team. And so that's why I think I was really just drawn towards women who just need a little bit of help, and seeing the smile on their face when they actually get that support. They can it gives them back the time that they didn't realize that they could be spending either on their business that they actually enjoy, or also they get back that time to relax or be with their family.
Yeah. And I think for, us in the nonprofit space, about 70% of our workforce are women. And I think for a lot of the women leaders, which are about 65%, I think right now of the workforce, which is a great thing to have in the nonprofit space, are women. And they wear so many hats. And I can't tell you how many executive directors I talk to that my first thing is oh my word, why are you doing all these things? Oh, you don't have the space for a full-time executive assistant. It doesn't seem like you need help just with your business, but maybe with life. Why don't you hire a VA? And their response is, what's a VA? So I would love you to kind of answer that question. What's a virtual assistant? What's a VA?
Yeah, I always tell this to people too. I'm don't just tell people you're a VA, tell them what you actually do. So I am an administrative virtual assistant. So virtual meaning works remote, assistant meaning we help you. So as an admin VA, we basically help you with anything that falls under that kind of administrative umbrella. So scheduling meetings, inbox management. Sometimes we have different grants that are coming through and you need them sorted, or you need to know deadlines on when those grant applications are due, or maybe you have like a course that you need to have that kind of situated, or you have clients or customers who need care for, maybe you need to respond to their inquiries, etc. So we take care of all of that for you within your company or organization.
Cool. So what advice, and I'm honestly thinking of one of the executive directors I personally work with, that he wears a lot of different hats in life, and I would claim has like 3 full-time jobs. And he also, like, anything administrative is just not a strength, right? Like there's a certain element of like, someone else should be doing these to make sure it gets done. But if someone like him is debating about getting a virtual assistant, like, what could I say to him? Like, what should I say to him to talk him into contacting you? Walk me through that.
Yeah, so generally I ask people to make kind of a list of like the things that you just can't stand to do. Like jot down that list. Like that list is something that like every time you go to do it, you're like grumbling to yourself, right? Sometimes that's email, sometimes that's responses, sometimes that's like scheduling out meetings or meeting notes, or like even just meeting with people and you're like, I don't have time for this. Or sometimes it's things like related to like finances, and you just have, or maybe spreadsheets. So like you have all these numbers and all these things and you're like, the data's there, but like my brain just cannot compute. That's where we come in. So I generally recommend creating some sort of list of all the things that you currently do but don't like to do, and then start, jotting down that list, and it'll get longer and longer as time goes on.
That's so funny. As we're sitting here, and I'm very present in this interview, but I'm also like starting to write my list as we talk. I bet everyone, all leaders have those, right?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. What's a common thing that you see people are repeatedly coming to you with the same pain point?
Yeah, a lot of it is like the inbox with like thousands of emails in it. The worst I've ever seen was 20,000 emails in an inbox. So fun. Took a while to clear that out. But yeah, inbox is definitely a big one. And sometimes that's just like helping to triage the inbox. So like moving things to different folders, or, highlighting important ones that they need to review and like filing other ones. And sometimes that's actually responding on their behalf or responding within their company. So sometimes they might not necessarily want you to like be in their inbox, but they maybe have a separate email under their account that you kind of monitor, or they will like CC you on things to help them schedule it. So email is like definitely a really big one, where a lot of people, there's just, especially with EDs, like there's just so many things going on all the time and so many different people that they're responsible for, that the emails just keep coming all the time. And so it helps to be able to kind of triage some of those tasks. And then I would say a second big one is just like having some sort of task tracker or some sort of project management tool. So sometimes there's deadlines for different assignments or different things that you're working on, and having that in some sort of project management tool definitely helps with that.
Yeah, and not only like a project management tool, but a second person that's going to nag you if you don't get it done in time, right?
Oh, for sure. We'll be on it.
Too funny. I guess I'm gonna like share a little bit for like people that are joining in that are nonprofit leaders. One of the things you might be asking, and Shaughnessy and I have both talked about this offline, I'm gonna bring it online, is like, how do I pay for this? What does that look like? I think the joy is we're in a post-COVID world. I think nonprofit boards are more comfortable outsourcing things and having contractors instead of just making everyone a full-time employee. But one of the things I even did, and I'm not saying this is how you should utilize your money, you should get paid for your value, but I was in a period in my life where I really just needed extra support when I was in-house at a nonprofit. And so I actually hired a VA, even out of like money I made, just to make sure I could keep my head above water and really to buy back some of my time and sanity. But I know, Shaughnessy, you have a couple nonprofit clients, I believe, but talk to me about like, is there anything else you know or could recommend in terms of budgeting? And I would say just advocate for it and say that's what you're doing. You're the executive director. Just say, this is what I'm doing. I'm hiring a VA. This is how much it costs.
Yeah, I think sometimes, it does really come down to like a budget. And sometimes that budget, and I've worked with different nonprofits before, and sometimes we end up ending our work agreement because they got a grant, and that grant, covers a full-time employee only kind of thing. But I definitely think that if you are the executive director and you're the one who at the end of the day helps to make that decision, sometimes it's a bit harder when you like have to get the recommendation of the board, and everybody has to vote and that kind of thing. But if you're the executive director and you know that you're struggling and you know that you could benefit from this, I just say bite the bullet and just do it. Because otherwise you're just, I don't want to sound mean, but like if you're missing out on doing certain things because you're just drowning in all the work, then you can't really perform your best overall, because there's too many things that you're missing and you're just juggling too many things at once. So sometimes what ends up happening is you're missing deadlines or stuff like that. And when I first start working with EDs, a lot of the time it's like, they are running from meeting to meeting, and it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm late for this meeting. And I'm just like, this is why you need me and my team, because you can't even get to the meeting on time, So like they're always in meetings and juggling different things. And I'm like, maybe you just need somebody to like double check your calendar, or like send out a reminder to you that like this meeting is coming up in 10 minutes, or like end this meeting now because there's another one coming in 10 minutes, So just having that like consistent like reminders and the support, I guess is what you could say, is very beneficial.
Yeah, and it's funny because we're like, so Shaughnessy did not tell me I'm not doing a hard sales pitch. We're just educating you about virtual assistants, but I mean, it's just true. Like, it's a big recommend. The reason I asked you on is I find that, although this does not relate to marketing, it's such a pain point for nonprofit leaders. And I know you and I have both been in-house, right, as directors, where you're like, we have no time. And like, especially in childcare centers, you're like boots on the ground. And then there's all this administrative paperwork as well, right?
Yeah,
right. I'd love to hear from you. A question I did not tell you I'd ask: would you ever be a VA for a child care director, having been a child care director? Why or why not?
Yeah, I think I would. Funny enough, I did. There was a woman who was like very high up in the previous childcare company that I worked for that ended up starting her own business related to ECE, and she actually did bring on a VA. She didn't end up bringing me on as a VA, but there are people out there who are in like the childcare space that do have VA, so it is possible. A lot of directors have like assistant directors who are in-house, and I have also been in that supervisory position before I moved into full-on director. But I definitely think that's a good point, that there definitely could be more support in that like virtual space for childcare centers. Like I think you would have to have like someone like me who has a knowledge of that ECE background for sure, but I'm sure they could benefit from it for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things I would say this is for a lot of nonprofits, but like there's some value. People often like, they have to be here. There's so much value as people that like, I have an entirely remote team. Shaughnessy has an entirely remote team. There's value in being physically removed from a space where you can just get that higher level work done, right? And so especially you agree that like people are often amazed how much stuff you get done when like, no, your team of VAs is literally doing the work, sitting at their computer and not distracted by office stuff, right?
And we're primarily those types of people who are like type A and are like, I'm time blocking. Everything is good. I'm doing this for this client. And then after this, it's this client. So yeah, we're definitely like that. And I think post-COVID for sure, lots of companies were like, we're bringing you back. And they were like, but the studies show that we're more productive, not in the office, right? And we're very productive because you're picking your own schedule and you're sticking to like your routine and you're working in your space where you're comfortable and there's not as many distractions, there's no commute, etc. And that's not to say that you can't do like team building. Like your VA can very much be as big or a small part of your team as you want them to be, like I've had a VA where, when I started and they would have me join in on team meetings and they'd, send me birthday cards and Christmas cards. And, so we definitely are part of the team, even though we're not physically at your space.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the child care director thing. More specifically, like just if you were to like say, yeah, there's a client that is a child care director and they just have no time and they're constantly on their feet and they never ever respond to emails. What initial things do you think would be tasks you would help with in that situation?
Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork and filing involved in childcare that nobody really talks about when you are like, yeah, I'm going to work my way up the ladder from classroom to the office. And then you get to the office and it's like, I miss the children because you're so busy filing paperwork. I've worked in profit and nonprofit childcare spaces, and it doesn't matter either way. If it's licensed, there is a lot of paperwork that goes involved from like your province or state, as well as like the country you live in. And so there's constantly like the need to update systems, and a lot of those systems are printed out on paper. They're not necessarily on the computer. And so there's like a lot of different things that need constant revisions or updates. You know, staff have certain dates, you know, for something simple like your first aid CPR renewals, of, you know, or they're registered with the state or the province with their licensing based on like their college diploma or whatever. So that also is something that like needs to be checked on a regular basis. So there's definitely a lot of different things that virtual help could probably be very beneficial.
What do you love about being like, you've talked a lot about the value you give, right? You talk about helping, and maybe that's like, what do you love about being a VA? I mean, you're growing an agency. I personally know you and I know how passionate you are. Like, why?
Yeah, I love the flexibility and the freedom it gives me. I'm currently in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. I can meet up with Kelly regularly now, I guess. And originally from Canada, but we've traveled to many different countries since I've become a VA, and it never would have been possible if I wasn't a virtual assistant. And also just that same flexibility, like now that I'm a mom, so like if my daughter's unwell, like 2 days ago, day before yesterday, she was sent home with a fever. Don't know why, but guess what?
Oh no.
She's home now. She's home. She was completely fine. She went back to school today. She's good. Okay. But yeah, you just never know. Like there could be anything. Or like if I have a doctor's appointment, like I can schedule it anytime I want. I don't have to like wait for the weekend. I don't have to ask somebody for the time off. I just like, you know, even if there's a last minute thing and I have a client meeting or something like that, anything can be switched at any given time. It allows for so much flexibility.
Mm-hmm. I want to make sure I don't miss any questions. So, you know, and it's funny because we just talked about this offline, and I'm going to act before Shaughnessy and I were talking before we got on, but, so you're building out a team, which is an exciting part of business. For those of you that I guess don't know, like offline, Shaughnessy and I are in a mastermind. Actually, she's in my mastermind, but it's our mastermind. That's about women agency owners. And it's so cool to see her at this stage, and it's so cool to see you in the stage in your business, like really rocking it. And one of the things you talked about, like, and I think it happens in the nonprofit space at all, we think we're such special snowflakes and that no one else could ever replace us. And you're going through this like right now where you've been the VA and then you've started hiring VAs and matching. And what are you finding? And how do you know it works?
Yes, it works because I was originally saying that like, well, how will I know that I can, you know, bring people onto my team when like so many people are coming to me and they want to work with me because I'm me, right?
Right.
And then I realized that as I started bringing on the new clients and I had my VAs on my team, because I so carefully selected those VAs, and I picked people who, you know, had the skill set, but also I felt like there was a good vibe and like, you know, I felt like they had good expertise and everything. I realized that those clients are equally as happy to work with my team as they are to work with me personally. So even though I'm the person who does the discovery call and you get to meet me and the business is Success by Ness after Shaughnessy, it's still awesome. Like my VAs are so great, and the clients have been super happy, haven't had any complaints so far, which is great. Yeah, so it's fear not.
Yeah, awesome.
It worked out. It's working out so far.
Cool. So I know I claimed 20 minutes of your time, and we're at almost 19 minutes. And I want to make sure that we cover a few things. One, I want to summarize for Shaughnessy a little bit, like we're talking about nonprofits right now and executive directors specifically, but anyone that is like, oh, this really like resonates with me, or this is exactly what Shaughnessy's talking about. It's exactly the pain point I have. Like Success by Ness does work with a variety of individuals and organizations. I would highly encourage nonprofits, especially there are a lot of different types of VAs out there. And sorry, I'm doing sales for Shaughnessy. There are a lot of different types of virtual assistants out there. I know that sometimes there are marketing virtual assistants or social media virtual assistants. I think for nonprofit leaders, the type of virtual assistant that Shaughnessy provides is what nonprofit leaders need. And so already, if you go to her, they're pre-screened where you know they have the skills of what your pain points are. That being said, Shaughnessy, for people that do want to get a hold of you, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? And
yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn at Shaughnessy KB. You can also find me on Instagram at Success by Ness. And then if you want to connect with us via email, it's hello@successbyness.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy supporting clients and managing your team. So thank you for letting me claim 20 minutes of your day and donating your time to nonprofits so that they can be more efficient and effective and rock their missions. For everyone that joined in, I'll see you next week.
Bye.